Advaita Gadadhara Siva Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shami Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Sama Vita Bhaktavind Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Brahmanande, Hare Hare Ko. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutare Samadhi Bhakti Tirtha Swami Nityanamani. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Sutapani Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namaste. Narayana Namaskritya Naruncheva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tatujayam Gujirayat Nashta Prahisva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Good morning, dear devotees. You should accept my own obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, today's class is from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 10. Sorry about that. So I'm going to chant the usual mantra 3 times, and then anyone who feels inclined to do that can do so. Pravartate yatra rajastamastayo Satvam cha mishram na cha kala vikrama Na yatra maya kim utat pare hare Anuvrata yata sura sura chita Pravartate yatra rajastamastayo Satvam cha mishram na cha kala vikrama Nayata maya kim uta parihari Anuvrata yata sura sura chita Pravartate yatra rajastamastayo Satvam cha mishram nacha kala vikrama Nayatra mayam kim uta parihari Nanuvrata yatra Sura Sura Chita. Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Pravartate yatra rajastamastayo Satvam cha mishram na cha kala vikramaha Na yatra maya kim uta pare hare Anuvrata yatra sura sura chitaha.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Pravartate yatra rajastamastayo Satvam cha mishram na cha kala vikrama Na yatra maya kimutapare hare Anuvrita yatra sura surarchita.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Okay.
Mataji, you have to unmute yourself.
Pravartate yatra rajastamostayo Sattvam cha mishram na chakala vikrama Nayatra maya kim uta pare hare Anuvrata yatra sura sura rechita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Anyone else? Okay. So we'll do word for word now. Pravartate, prevail. Yatra, wherein. Rajatama, the modes of passion and ignorance. Tayo, of both of them. Sattvam, the mode of goodness. Cha, and. Vishram, mixture. Na, never. Cha, and. Kala, time. Vikrama, influence. Na, neither. Yatra, therein. Maya, illusory external energy. Kim, what? Uta, there is. Apare, others. Hare, of the personality of Godhead. Anurata, devotees. Yatra, wherein. Sura, by the demigods. Asura, and the demons. Achita, worshipped. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of ignorance and passion do not prevail, nor is there any influence in good, any of their influence in goodness. There is no predominance of the influence of time. So what to speak of the illusory external energy? It cannot enter that region. Without discrimination, both the demigods and the demons worship the Lord as devotees. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The kingdom of God, or the atmosphere of the Vaikuntha nature, which is called the Tripad Vibhuti, is 3 times bigger than the material universes and is described here as also in the Bhagavad Gita in a nutshell. This universe, containing billions of stars and planets, is one of the billions of such universes clustered together within the compass of the Mahatattva. And all these millions and billions of universes combined together constitute only 1/4 of the magnitude of the whole creation of the Lord. There is the spiritual sky also. Beyond the sky are spiritual planets. Beyond this material sky, that is, are the spiritual planets under the names of Vaikuntha. And all of them constitute 3/4 of the entire creation of the Lord. God's creations are always innumerable. Even the leaves of a tree cannot be counted by a man, nor can the hairs on his head. However, foolish men are puffed up with the idea of becoming God himself, though unable to create a hair of their own bodies. Man may discover so many wonderful vehicles of journey, but even if he reaches the moon by his much advertised spacecraft, he cannot remain there. The sane man, therefore, without being puffed up as if he were the God of the universe, abides by the instructions of the Vedic literature, the easiest way to acquire knowledge in transcendence. So let us know the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam. So let us know through the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam of the nature and constitution of the transcendental world beyond the material sky. In that sky, the material qualities, especially the modes of ignorance and passion, are completely absent. The mode of ignorance influences a living entity to the habit of lust and hankering. And this means that in the Vaikuntha Lokas, the living entities are free from these 2 things. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Brahma Bhuta, Srimad Bhagavatam 4.30.20. So in the Brahma Bhuta stage of life, one becomes free from hankering and lamentation. Therefore, the conclusion is that the inhabitants of the Vaikuntha planets are all Brahma Bhuta living entities, as distinguished from the mundane creatures who are all compact in hankering and lamentation. When one is not in the modes of ignorance and passion, one is supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness in the material world. Goodness in the material world also at times becomes contaminated by touches of the modes of passion and ignorance. In the Vaikuntha Loka, it is unalloyed goodness only. The whole situation there is one of freedom from the illusory manifestation of the external energy. Although illusory energy is also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, illusory energy is differentiated from the Lord. The Lord, the illusory energy is not, however, false, as claimed by the monist philosophers. The rope accepted as a snake may be an illusion to a particular person, but the rope is a fact. The rope is a fact, and the snake is also a fact. The illusion of water on the hot desert may be illusion for the ignorant animal searching for water in the desert, but the desert and the water are actual facts. Therefore, the material creation of the Lord may be an illusion to the non-devotee, but to the devotee, even the material creation of the Lord is a fact, as the manifestation of his external energy. But this energy of the Lord is not all. The Lord has his internal energy also, which has another creation known to be the Vaikuntha Lokas, where there is no ignorance, no passion, no illusion, and no past and present. With a poor fund of knowledge, one may be unable to understand the existence of such things as the Vaikuntha atmosphere, but that does not nullify its existence. That spacecraft cannot reach these planets. That spacecraft cannot reach these planets does not mean that there are no such planets, for they are described in the revealed scriptures. As quoted by Srila Jiva Goswami, we can know from the Nada Pancharatra that the transcendental world of Vaikuntha atmosphere is enriched with transcendental qualities. These transcendental qualities, as revealed through the devotional service of the Lord, are distinct from the mundane qualities of ignorance, passion, and goodness. Such qualities are not attainable by the non-devotee class of men. In the Padma Purana, Uttarkanda, it is stated that beyond the 1/4 part of God's creation is the 3/4 manifestation. The marginal line between the material manifestation and the spiritual manifestation is the Viraja river, and beyond the Viraja, which is a transcendental current flowing from the perspiration of the body of the Lord, there is the 3/4 manifestation of God's creation. This part is eternal, everlasting, without deterioration, and unlimited, and it contains the highest perfection stage of living conditions. In the Sankhya Kaumudi, it is stated that unalloyed goodness or transcendence is just opposite to the material modes. All the living entities there are eternally associated without any break, and the Lord is the chief and prime entity. In the Agama Puranas also, the transcendental abode is described as follows. The associated members there are free to go everywhere within the creation of the Lord, and there is no limit to such creation, particularly in the region of the 3/4 magnitude. Since the nature of that region is unlimited, there is no history of such association, nor is there end of it. The conclusion may be drawn that because of the complete absence of the mundane qualities of ignorance and passion, there is no question of creation nor of annihilation. In the material world, everything is created and everything is annihilated, and the duration of life between creation and annihilation is temporary. In the transcendental realm, there is no creation and no destruction, and thus the duration of life is eternal unlimitedly. In other words, everything in the transcendental world is everlasting, full of knowledge and bliss without deterioration. Since there is no deterioration, there is no past, present, and future in the estimation of time. It is clearly stated in this verse that the influence of time is conspicuous by its absence. The whole material existence is manifested by actions and reactions of elements which make the influence of time prominent in the matter of past, present, and future. There are no such actions and reactions of cause and effects there. So the cycle of birth, growth, existence, transformations, deterioration, and annihilation, the six material changes are not existent there. It is the unalloyed manifestation of the energy of the Lord without illusion as experienced here in the material world. The whole Vaikuntha existence proclaims that everyone there is a follower of the Lord. The Lord is the chief leader there without any competition for leadership. And the people in general are all followers of the Lord. It is confirmed in the Vedas, therefore, that the Lord is the chief leader and all other living entities are subordinate to him. For only the Lord satisfies the needs of all other living entities. Om Gyanat Virandasya Gyana Gyanashlakaya Chakshu Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutare Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dhanti Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaisnavam Scha Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhuitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Kruna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kantana Mustate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamani Hari Priya Panchakalpa Turu Vescha Kripa Sunive Eva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Shatayani Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Guratiche Namaha Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himadri Vachapi Sundaraya Tasmi Mahaprem Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So the English translation again. In that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of ignorance and passion do not prevail, nor is there any of their influence in goodness. There is no predominance of the influence of time. So what to speak of the illusory energy, external energy? It cannot enter that region. Without discrimination, both the demigods and the demons worship the Lord as devotees. So this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam is very interesting in the purport here. Prabhupada spends so much time talking about the spiritual world and basically the qualities there and the devotees there. Now, what got us to this point? Well, it is connected with Lord Brahma. So some of the texts before describes how Lord Brahma pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his penance in Bhakti Yoga. And the Lord presented his transcendental form before Lord Brahma. Definitely, when the Lord presents his form before any living entity, that personality never forgets that situation. And that's the same with Lord Brahma. So, Lord Brahma, when he was first born, Lotus Feet came from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, when he didn't know what was really going on, he heard the two syllables tapa. And following that, he prepared himself and went through tapasya. We are also going through tapasya in our own way. In this material world where we're living, many people around us are living life of sense gratification. But we are swimming against the current because we are living a life of tapasya. And this is not me just saying this. Prabhupada says the four regulated principles compared to material life now puts us in tapasya because the things they're doing, we're not doing. Mm-hmm. But actually, that is a life that's consistent of the main charges, even for the religions, particularly Jesus Christ. He said, live in this world, but not be of it. Mm-hmm. And so that has been woven into the regulated principles that we live by. So, yes, Tapasya was being very much observed by or practiced by Brahmaji after he heard the instructions. The Lord later on told him that he was the one that actually gave that sound to Lord Brahma's ear to go through the Tapasya. Now, he went through this for 1,000 years by the calculation of the demigods. And the 1 day of demigod is equal to 6 months for us. So that's a very long time. 6 months, 180 days, approximately. And that's the daytime. Usually that what I had to learn is when they say 1 day, they mean the daytime. And then the nighttime is also pretty much the same amount of time. So Brahmaji controlled his mind and senses. And as it said in text 8, we're in text 10 now, but in text 8, it says that the way he controlled his mind and the penances he went through are a great lesson for living entities, which means all of us. We're supposed to go through penances. We're supposed to go through just like the ascetics go through. So we are partly living a life of ascetic, even though we're in the material world, and sometimes some things in the material world do influence us, true enough. But by associating with devotees, we are always reminded, and also by hearing the scriptures, we are always reminded of our position and why we are in the position that we're in, and the advantage that we have for being in that position. When we struggle for something, usually when there's something that's a goal that if somebody's trying to reach, they are satisfied that that goal will be very good for them. Therefore, they go through whatever challenges come to get there. This is the best goal. To understand that we are in this house of correction, the material world, 1/4 of all that be, and to get out of this, there is tapasya we have to go through in terms of the regulated principles. There is having to get up early in the morning because that's the Brahma Muhurta time and that's the best time of the day for giving to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in chanting the Lord's name. The fact that we have to chant a minimum of 16 rounds daily. So these all are challenges to work towards getting out of this place. Krishna very much wants us to get out of here, to go back to the spiritual world. But there should be a distinction between those who want to go and those who don't care to go, trying to make it in the material world. And the distinction is very much woven into the lifestyle that now we live by, with explanation as to why we're supposed to live that lifestyle. And when the Lord was coming back to Lord Brahma, satisfied with them, he manifested, he showed the spiritual world to Lord Brahma. The Lord is very kind, and when we put our hearts to serving, he will, in many ways, including protection, correspond or relate to us, literally. So there's no need to worry. Vamos buta pasana atmana sochiti ne kangshiti. Those who are at that point who understand that the Lord is there for them at any time, they don't worry. Those who are in the spiritual world have no reason to worry. So, Srila Prabhupada describes or translates the material modes of ignorance and passion, they don't prevail there, nor is there influence in the modes of goodness. Why they say, nor is there any influence, their influence in the modes of goodness. Well, there is material goodness. And material goodness is sometimes affected by the modes of passion and ignorance. So sometimes it's mixed, it's not unalloyed, it's not totally pure. As my Guru Maharaj sometimes described this mode of goodness as, giving an example, as somebody may want to donate Lakshmi large sum to build a hospital. But they very much like the idea that those who build the hospital put his name or her name on that hospital. So now every time anybody's going to that hospital, if I'm going to so and so hospital, then they, talk about the guy, they mention this person's the contributor's name. And the contributor feels good that yes, I am the one who put this. And I remember one time, the last year that I spent in teaching at the university level, I taught at Penn State, one of their campuses. And there was one, at the time I was there, they were building a new science wing, new science building, labs and everything in it. And it had a name. It turned out that somebody who donated a large sum of money for that building, when the time came, I was there when they were going to open that building. And so it was a whole ceremony of it. And then there were some people that attended. I didn't know them, just older, white party people that came. And the person that was making the, small speech before we could go into the building, we called the name of the building. We all knew about it because they had put it in the front. And then he mentioned one particular man. So we all turned and saw him. Oh, you're this person whose name is on the building now. They were honoring him like that. Now, the devotees don't care for that kind of honor. They don't. They don't care for that kind of honor. There are a couple of reasons. One, the more people put your name here and there, the more people who are envious will throw negative energy at you. Oh, he thinks that he's so whatever, he's so rich, he's so this, that. People become kind of, envious. That's one. And two, whatever that we put here in this material world is temporary. One day, there will be no building with nobody's name on it. It will be destroyed. Time influences whatever happens here. So that's why it's described in this text that there's no predominance of the influence of time. Time, as Krishna says, I am time, and then he said the destroyer of all things. So in time, the material energy is annihilated. And so the spiritual world never gets annihilated. Therefore, time doesn't play that kind of role that it plays here in the material world. Now, towards the end of the very last sentence in this translation also says, without discrimination, both the demigods and the demons worship the Lord as devotees. Now, it may not be surprising to hear demigods worshiping the Lord as devotees, but when the name demon comes up, sometimes it conjures up all kinds of questions in their mind. And I remember one lecture that I watched, I listened to a video of, watched and listened. Radha Maharaj is preaching. And then he brought up the idea of demons, and somebody said, are there demons in the spiritual world? Well, I'll tell you what Maharaj's answer was. He says, he didn't answer directly. He says, when you get to the spiritual world, you'll find out whether they are or not. The Buddhists kind of laughed about it. But basically, Radha Maharaj didn't give any details about it. Now, we know one thing for sure. There's Maya, Yoga Maya in the spiritual world, Yoga Maya. And through Yoga Maya, all kinds of activities, and sometimes even the bodies, they are put into some state. We could even venture to use the word a little bit confusion, but it's because the Lord wants to do something that is either at the end very wonderful, or there's a particular aim that he wants to get to that's beneficial for those that he's dealing with at the time. One pastime, and sometimes some of our leaders, some of them connected with the spiritual world, they would tell you some things that we may not even know about because it's not been put in the script. We're talking about examples now. So there's one example that I heard as a pastime. We all know about so many activities that take place in the spiritual world in terms of parties and the dancing and the singing and so many things that go on in that way in the spiritual world. So there's one example of that type of activity going on. And in the middle of so the way it was reported, Krishna was there. And then Krishna disappeared. And in the middle of this, they heard a huge roar. Huge roar. So it obviously got everybody concerned, to use a mild word. People started running here and there and there. They turned to look at where the sound was coming from. And Krishna had changed himself into the Shingadev form, half man, half lion. And he roared like that. And so when the devotees turned around and then saw that it was Krishna doing that, then they all started laughing. So, all kinds of activities take place in the spiritual world. This one is not one that you will find easily anyway, but it was through my Guru Maharaj that I learned about this particular, at least a short version of the pastime. So yeah, things do happen in different ways. The Lord, and unfortunately, nobody pushed that not for me to get into the details of it a little bit as to their demons in the spiritual world. They have particular activities that they play, not like the ones that's here in the material world. They're trying to put everybody down and so on. So yeah, that is there, but I will have to, beyond that, I don't know any more of it. Let's say we left the spiritual world a long time ago. Therefore, when it comes to that, we can't provide too much information about it. But it's still here. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, and so when Srimad Bhagavatam tells you so many things. So this is not surprising. So yes, the spiritual world is 3 times bigger than the material world. Also, it's described that the material world has numerous, numerous planets and universes. The spiritual world has numerous planets and universes, like unlimited. One time I remember Woody asked me a question, but how can you put a number to a situation that's unlimited? For example, here, the spiritual world is 3 times bigger than the material world, but the spiritual world is unlimited and the material world is unlimited. So how you get 3 times unlimited compared to another one? But in this case, this one has already been described right there in the purport. The Srila Prabhupada explains that if you have a large tree, can you count all the leaves in there and get an accurate number of leaves? The chances are no. Can you even count the hair on your own body and get an accurate number? The chances are no. We just know that there's a lot. But we are one human being. We have an unlimited, uncountable number of hairs in our body, but we are one person though. So there's one person and there's a second person that also has, numbers of hairs that you can't count. So unlimited is used in that sense, that we're not capable of counting everything. In the situation of leaves of a large tree or even the hairs on the body, including the ones on our skin and the ones on top of our heads. So we have that experience that it's no point. People don't even bother to do it because like, well, it's a lot of them. You leave it like that. So that's how regular numbers can be juxtaposed or thought about alongside the idea of unlimited. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj talks about a spiritual world being tri-quadrantal and the material world being uni-quadrantal. In case you meet these words, tri and uni. Okay, tri is three and uni is one. That's also his way of describing that the spiritual world is three times bigger, but than the material world. The planets in the spiritual world are bigger than even the biggest universe in the material world. Srila Prabhupada described is that the absolutely overwhelming majority of living entities are in the spiritual world. Even though there's billions of, even one planet has for um, human beings alone at this point in this small planet in this small universe, there's 7.5 billion people. That's still very small, very, very, very small. A fraction, a very tiny fraction compared to all living entities in the material world, which is also a very tiny fraction compared to those in the spiritual world. So it's very, very, very few, vanishingly small amount of entities in the spiritual world ever come to the material world. So many of them are not busy trying to envy Krishna. No, not at all. They are serving. Only very few. And even with that, again, the question was asked by Srila Prabhupada, to Srila Prabhupada, why is it, this is a reporter that asked him that question, why is it that Krishna knows that in the material world is a struggle and he can do everything, he's most powerful, and he allowed us to come here anyway? Why? Then Srila Prabhupada answered that it wasn't like Krishna wanted us to come here. We forced his hand. The conditioned souls forced his hand to come here because they wanted, or the conditioned souls, I should say we, because now we're part of it, unless there's a few devotees among us. We wanted our own freedom without any service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Life in the material, in the spiritual world was very good for us, but still we wanted our own leadership role. And Sri Prabhupada says, we force Krishna's hands, which implies then that Krishna did in fact warn us that this is not going to be good for us, this kind of decision, but we still want it. And therefore Krishna allowed us. Just like Srila Prabhupada's son, who, this is a real life situation, who saw a fan and wanted to touch the fan. He was thrilled about it, curious about, not thrilled, but curious about the way the fan blades are going. And he wanted to touch it to see what happens. And Sri Prabhupada warned him, but he still wanted to do it. So Sri Prabhupada pulled out the cord so that it wouldn't be so harmful. If he touched it, he says, go ahead and touch it. And he touched, and of course, he was surprised about the pain that was associated with that touching. So we are also trying to make it here, but in this material world, the modes affect us. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. And especially passion and ignorance. This world is, at this point, the earth, so much passion is there and so much ignorance is there. And slowly, the devotees are trying to change people's minds, not only to go past goodness, but to get connected with transcendence. So this is a very, very, very serious assignment for all of us to spread Krishna consciousness. If we don't do that, then we could really change the lives of several people, but we wouldn't have done it. And that would not be good for us. If somebody turns it down, Krishna consciousness book or whatever, that's one thing. But we should really make the effort in our own way. Go by what's there first, the book distribution, how it's done, or find out in your own way in your environment, how you can, in fact, get Srila Prabhupada's books and the whole Krishna consciousness philosophy pulled out. We all should contribute one way or the other. So, Srila Prabhupada also talks about many wonderful vehicles of journey. People are saying that they've gone to the moon and it generated quite a bit of controversy. Some people believed, some people did not believe. First, many people believed, and then later on, it became a talk that maybe it didn't happen. And Srila Prabhupada was definitely one of those that said it did not happen. And some of the Buddhists even left this from after hearing that. They thought Srila Prabhupada was trying to be as if he needed it, like envious of the situation in America, which is ridiculous to even think that way. But the Lord, Srila Prabhupada was saying that no, it didn't happen. So in this example that he gives, man may discover so many wonderful vehicles of journey, but even if he reaches the moon by his much advertised spacecraft, he cannot remain there. Now remember, Sri Prabhupada says, you go to the moon? Really? Stay there. The bodies are not designed for the atmosphere on the moon. And there is support also about what happened, really. One NASA scientist admitted later on that it had been known that the spacecraft cannot pass through one place and some of the places in the atmosphere going to, if even they were heading for the moon. That place, the temperature was too high. So he left it that way. But I said, draw your own conclusion about it. And the Prabhupada also. And I saw one documentary on YouTube, they were talking about the moon expedition and how to get back. And there were some situations that happened to the spacecraft. But then they mentioned that they had gone 200,000 miles. They mentioned that distance. Well, the moon is 94 plus million miles from the Earth. So again, you can draw your own conclusion. So we don't get too much into these matters. So I'll just kind of leave it here. But say Papa did mention the man did not go to the moon, or even if you go, well, try to stay there, which is something nobody has done. So to get back to sanity without being puffed up, we just simply have to abide by the instructions of the Vedic literature, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. That tells us so much about what is what. The Supreme Personality of Godhead as different incarnations, Maharaj, Rishabhadev, Maharaj, Prithu, and then the pure devotees of the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj, Jat Bharat. They're all talking about wonderful things, and not to mention the 9 Yogendras. They all give such wonderful information in Srimad Bhagavatam. And it helps us to get to the stage of being free from hankering and lamentation. This is the way it is mentally for those who are in the spiritual world. They never hanker and they never lament. When we rise to the process, not just hearing, but of living a life of complete surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there will be no reason to hanker or lament for anything. The more we hanker, the more we lament. It means that there's still some attachment to material energy. And not only that, it means our surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not complete. We still have some work to do. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 54, so we talked a little bit, first two, we talked about it a little. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasochati Nakankshati Samasavetu Bhuteshu Mat Bhaktin Lavate Param. So that means one who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. This is what Krishna consciousness is supposed to be, supposed to make us joyful. Now, the rest of the translation is that person never laments or desires to have anything. He's equally disposed to every living entity, and in that state, he attains pure devotional service to Krishna. So one who is transcendently situated realizes the Supreme Brahman, realizes Krishna for who he is, and becomes fully joyful. The joy can come from the fact that we know we're connected with the highest being in terms of everything you can think of. The greatest, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's got our back. He's protecting us, and he's also directing our lives. The more we see that in our lives, the more joyful we become. Yes, there are challenges that come, but that's the nature of the material world. And we don't lament or desire to have all kinds of things. Whatever is in our possession now, we get to the point that we can actually be totally convinced that if I were to leave my body today, would I desire or still be attached to any of the material things that I have? And the answer should be an overwhelming no. I can leave it all behind. I can leave it all behind and not worry about any part of it. This should be the mentality of every devotee. Because if there's anything that makes us feel like, oh, we should have had that in the material world, then we will come back to the material world just to get that thing. Krishna is most important in our lives. Therefore, the request here is anyone who, for devotees find out they're leaving the body, we should either try to get to that place where the person is and help with the chanting of the Lord so they remember the Lord's name, or at least if we're not there, we should, because prayers are very, 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 very powerful. We should pray for that person to remember the Supreme Personality of God and make that request that Krishna or through the devotees somehow, one way or the other, help that person to remember Krishna so that they can go back to the spiritual world. There is no point staying in this place that has so much misery. We all know how our lives unfold practically every day. The dangers that are around. Padam, padam, yati, padam, natisham. We drive our car, we know immediately that somebody does something crazy, we might get in an accident. It doesn't have to even be our fault, and we still be in all kinds of trouble. And since we go day and night, many, many, many days without that happening, that's evidence that the Lord is protecting us. The Lord, and therefore we should be also at the spiritual level, just like the first class devotees are, in terms of how they think. This person who is not lamenting and not desiring to have anything for themselves, that person is also equally disposed towards every living entity. In other words, you look at all living entities at the spiritual level. Yes, there are some who are more intelligent than all these non-human type bodies that the souls are in don't have the intelligence that we have. He cannot go back to the spiritual world, not this particular lifetime. But still, a devotee extends mercy to that person. Even those little bugs, we can extend mercy by chanting so that they can hear. Chant out loud. Jiva Goswami has said it is in fact better to chant loud. Chant so you yourself can hear. It helps with the focus, but it also helps the living entities around us that we can't even see, the germs. They also have souls, and the souls can connect with this transcendental sound, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and also benefit from it. His Holiness Japataka Swami made a similar statement that when a devotee chants out loud, the living entities around, they also, even if you can't see them, they also benefit from them, from the sound of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The Krishna Maha Mantra is the Hare Krishna themselves. So we should give that kind of help to everyone. So Vaikuntha Srila Prabhupada describes unalloyed goodness only. No contamination, from passion or ignorance, and freedom from illusory energy. So that is a very peaceful and very joyous place. And we do really have to try hard to go. Try hard to go. I know we are trying to, but we have to try even harder to go. Mm. And it all begins from the mind. How to get the mind focused on Krishna practically all of the time. And if we've done some, we should still do more to get the mind to focus on Krishna. How? Well, sometimes we don't have all the answers, but you know what? Prayer brings so many answers. So we should actually pray to Krishna to help us to have other ways to remember him and to influence other people also to get connected with Krishna. Mm-hmm. Prayers that are about bhakti, from mental, we have a physical bhakti that we perform, and then also mental. All of that's helpful towards our growth. But we also have to be compassionate. The body is always like that. You have to think about, well, I'm fortunate to have this position, but there are others too that don't have that position. How can I help them? So beginning from chanting out, so we should stop chanting in the mind, because when you chant in the mind, you may be chanting, but no living entity around you is hearing, is not connecting with them. So that's why it's necessary to chant out loud so that they can hear and they can also benefit from it. Don't worry about how they hear it. It's going to the soul. The soul has senses and the soul can perceive. Therefore, the soul senses are even better than the material senses we use, because the soul senses can do all kinds of things. Whereas the eye can just see and the eye cannot eat, the eye cannot smell. The senses of the soul can do all of that. One of them can do all of that. So we just put out the mantra and leave Krishna to have it go across to the entities that we can't see. We just do that kind of service from our hearts. Mm-hmm. So that way we're still in the material energy, but we are helping satisfy the things that Krishna wants. And Krishna wants every living entity to be heading back to the spiritual world. If they don't want to go and they want to try to make it in the material world, that's their business. That is their business. Prabhupada put it, Krishna is all pervading, just like the sunshine is all pervading. But if you close your door, it says close it so that there's no gap anywhere so the sun cannot come in, then it's dark. That's your business. You decided it that way. If I do that, I decided it that way. But Krishna is always open for everybody. So we should try to open doors for others who don't know, they're in ignorance, don't realize what is actually there. So now there are some things coming up. As in one sense, when we talk a little bit about electronics, especially YouTube. So many videos are put in YouTube. And devotees, I saw all the way up this morning, somebody has put a very nice video on YouTube, the person that I happen to know, and describing New Vrindavan. I was very excited to hear about that. So YouTube is there. So we also start putting things for Krishna and kind of do it in such a way that people will be interested in it. We have our direct Srimad Bhagavatam talk, lectures, which are very helpful. But sometimes we have the karmis, when they see our dress and so on, some people listen, some people just go, yeah, it's the Hare Krishna, it's the Hindus, and then they get turned off. But if we talk about things in a very simple, non-heavily loaded, now I'm saying it kind of advisedly, heavily loaded Krishna conscious jargon, but then use words that they used to and still bring them into Krishna consciousness. This is it's called the indirect way of preaching Krishna consciousness, but it's very, very effective because they'll say, oh, he's like one of us. He's got very good advice. He's got good wisdom. Well, it's not wisdom, not from us. It's wisdom from Srila Prabhupada, wisdom from Srimad Bhagavatam, wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. And that way we can present it to them, even wear regular clothes, and just have a camera on us, and then begin to say something. YouTube is open. They will always put it out. If you do it, they'll put it out. And so I was very excited as the speaker Mataji started describing. She lives in New Vrindavan, and she started describing New Vrindavan, and put it up on tube. Just only 20 minutes of discussion. So there's so many things that we can do. We should find different ways of getting out, helping people to get out of this material world, because it will not work well here no matter what they think. And we already know that. So Lord Brahma, through his activities of tapasya, is leading us to what we need to do, follow the regulated principles strictly. And if the word strictly kind of generates some fear in others, because it's like, oh, well, I'm trying to follow the regulated principles, but I still have some thoughts that are in the modes of passion and ignorance. Thoughts are controlled by the Lord. If we allow the Lord to control it, it will happen. I'm talking about the Lord as Paramatma in the heart. So again, one of the prayers, one of the 9 processes of service is prayers. Those prayers are not for material things, but prayers should be said to improve our own condition. And Srila Prabhupada says purity is the force. So the purer we become, the more we'll be able to convince others to be involved in Krishna consciousness. In that way, Krishna will be pleased with us also for the work that we do. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. I know I could go on and on and on. But anyway, this is time to unmute yourself if you have comments to make or questions to ask. Hare Krishna. So is anybody?
Thank
Hare
you very
Krishna.
much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Lot of things we need to know.
Little by little.
Little by little.
Yeah, you get to know when you apply, like that. Hare Krishna.
Many things, Prabhu. Until now, a lot of things I didn't know. That we think, what is that material world? What is this spiritual world? It has lot of things to think. That, like you said, counting the tree leaves, it's impossible. We see the tree, we enjoy the tree, we enjoy the flowers, fruits, but if you ask me to count the leaves, I don't know.
So we say it's unlimited.
It's unlimited.
Yeah,
unlimited.
It's beyond our capacity to.
That's really a nice thing to know, Prabhu.
Hare
And
Krishna.
chanting loud, you're saying, chanting loud. Is that possible everywhere, in the house or where we chant? Yes, it affects for all the surrounded souls. But sometimes they say, oh, no, I'm doing something else and you're disturbing me. What is that we can do? That how can we handle that?
When we chant and somebody says we're disturbing them?
Because they might be doing something else seriously.
Yeah.
So how can we do that?
We always can kind of, when we say chant out loud, does not mean that you have to shout. There's a difference between talking and then shouting. So if the voice is lowered a little bit, the intensity of the talk is lowered a little bit, then we can still chant till we can hear. Actually, when they say chant out loud, it's said the detail about that I've heard, including from lectures I've heard, chant so you yourself can hear it. It doesn't have to be very, very loud chanting. Yeah, chant so you can hear it. That's all. But I've heard also devotees who, Mangalatik, after Mangalatik and Japa time in the temple.
They do loud.
One devotee started immediately screaming Krishna's name very loud. And other devotees were chanting and they got disturbed.
I know.
He got disturbed. So the devotee finally walked out of the temple and then started chanting in the grounds. And this was in Gitanagri. Because he also felt like he wanted to scream Krishna's name, but then he was kind of disturbing to others because they also have, they have their rhythm going, chanting, and this all of a sudden wasn't that the Krishna's name being shouted was disturbing to them, but just the intensity of it kind of throws their concentration off. Therefore, so they talked about it a little bit. You can also go into a different place. Like this guy left the temple and went to the temple grounds and started chanting there, where he could just shout to his content. Nobody would bother him. You know? So yeah, sometimes just the practical part of it we have to take into consideration.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, bro.
But it's a nice class, and I wait for this kind of class.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy. I'm just a mouthpiece to get it out. Hare Krishna.
Always, class will be very interesting. It's very nectar, too much nectar in that.
There's nectar in Krishna consciousness. Always is. Hare Krishna. Yeah. By the mercy of Guru and Guranga.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Krishna.
Any other devotee wants to unmute? Or we can end too. It all depends what the boys want to do. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Good way to start the week. All the information is there. But like you were saying, what we need to do is now apply it.
Yes.
And practice it and do it. So.
And we'll be happy if we do that. Yes. We'll have happiness from within. That's how that works. That's the best type of happiness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Accept
my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I really liked your class very much. Very nice information. And I like in the end you said purity is important. The more pure we are, the more we are able to convince others.
Yeah, influence, yes. That's Srila Prabhupada's statement. Purity is the force.
Yeah, very nice. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Pariksit Prabhu. Just want to say thank you.
Repeat
my obeisances. Thank you, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you. I just want to say thank you as well.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
That was very, very purifying. Just to hear his pastimes and the philosophy. I don't have any questions. I think you covered everything very, very nicely.
Krishna's mercy. This is Kata. It's fun. All right then. Thank you.
But this is Kata, but the way you are telling us is very interesting.
Jai, goes to Gurudev, Prabhupada, goes to everyone.
Thank you.
Vanchakalpatarubhishcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Can I make one request? Quick request? I'm asking, and I normally don't do this, but I'll still do it anyway because I've seen so many devotees. Just asking for blessings from the devotees. And why? The reason is I'm trying to complete a book on humility. And the force behind getting it done is Chandamali Swami. And he really pushed me quite a bit. The draft is completed, the manuscript is done now, and then we have to go into the editing part of it and rearranging things into different paragraphs and so on. So now the working title of it is Wearing the Cloak of Humility. That's the title of the book. And I don't know when it'll come out. It may take some time because I have to learn so many things about how to get a book properly done and things about Amazon, all of that I have. So I'm asking for blessings from the devotees and prayers to get through this particular exercise. And then there are some books after that too, that by the Lord's mercy, we'll see what happens. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's all chant Hare Krishna one time. Offer blessings to this project, which will definitely be a benediction to the devotee community and to the world.
Well, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare.
My heartfelt gratitude to all of you for doing just that. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai. Okay. Have a nice
Thank you,
one.
Prabhu.